Is Michail Antonio a West Ham United legend? I guess everybody's going to have their own opinions on this, and I'll give you my opinions as we go along. I'm going to drill down into some of the finer detail about the West Ham United career of the Jamaican international. As to whether he's a club legend, it's a matter of opinion. But you got to say is that he was at the club for 10 years and he was a really great servant one way and another. You can't deny that, even if you don't agree that he was a legend. But let's get into it. You've got a comment section below, and I really want to get your thoughts, your opinions on whether Michail Antonio leaves the club in the bracket of legend, which I think is a term that gets bandied around quite a lot and probably gets attached to a lot of players that, in my humble opinion, probably don't deserve it. But I do think that in Michail Antonio's case, there is at least an argument to say that he should be considered for that particular accolade. Whether you agree with that he should have that is another matter, but we'll get into that. So, like I say, get your comments in the section below. Please also don't forget, drop a like on the stream if you have enjoyed the content, and please feel free to give us a hype as well. I believe that is also something that helps to get this content out there to places otherwise it might not reach. Why don't you consider sharing this onto your social media platforms? And finally, just check to see if you are subscribed to the channel. And if you're not, please click the button that says subscribe and hit the bell notification, and you will know of any new content as and when it is uploaded to the channel. It is completely free of charge. Hitting the subscribe button just takes a moment of your time, and we do not get any data sensitive information. This just grows the channel into something bigger and better down the track. And we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. Now, Michail Antonio, at the time that he left West Ham United, had been with us for 10 years. He signed during the course of the 2015-16 season, which was, of course, the last season at the old Boleyn Ground. And he was signed from Nottingham Forest for approximately £5 million. Be completely honest with you, I'd never heard of him when he'd walked into the club, but he came into the club, and his previous experience at clubs included his start in football was at Tooting and Mitcham United. Now, from there, he then went to Reading, and he had multiple spells whilst he was at Reading. He was at Reading for approximately 4 years. He went back to Tooting and Mitcham on loan. He also had a loan spell at Cheltenham, Southampton, where he actually hooked up with former West Ham United manager Alan Pardew, Colchester United, and Sheffield Wednesday. Now, off of the back of the loan to Sheffield Wednesday in 2012, Sheffield Wednesday actually made that deal permanent. And from there, after a 2-year stint, he then went to Nottingham Forest. He spent approximately a year there, where Slaven Bilic then parted with £5 million to bring him in to the Boleyn Ground. Now, he was a player that at first had to content himself with being on the substitutes bench. But as the season went on, he made a breakthrough into the first team. And the rest is history, as they say. Now, he played in a number of different positions, very, very versatile player. And I'm just going to read you the positions that he played in his West Ham United career, which lasted 323 appearances in all competitions. He played 189 matches as a centre forward. He played 39 matches at right midfield, 25 matches as a right winger, 19 matches as a right back, 14 matches as left midfield, 6 matches as a left winger, 3 matches as a second striker, 1 match as an attacking midfielder, and he played 1 match at left back. By the way, in those two matches where he played, not 2 matches, sorry, 19 matches where he played as a right back, he managed to achieve 2 goals, 3 assists. And in that match where he was a left back, he got 1 assist to his name. In his total career as a West Ham United player, as I say, 323 matches, there were 83 goals and 42 assists. And as far as West Ham United is concerned, he is our all-time Premier League record goal scorer with 68 goals in 268 matches in the Premier League. Quite an incredible body of performance. Now, if I just sort of put a few other little things in there, which might add a little bit of weight to the case to say that Michail Antonio is a West Ham United legend, you also have to put these things into sequence. So the first thing is to say, in that final game at the Boleyn, he scored the equalising goal in the 3-2 win against Manchester United. It was a header. He also scored, interestingly enough, in that last season. He also scored in our last match against Tottenham Hotspur at the Boleyn, which was also a headed goal from a corner past Hugo Lloris in a 1-0 win. So 2 matches there in that last season where he managed to get goals, both with his head, that were to good effect. As I say, one was the only goal of a win against Tottenham Hotspur, always very pleasing. And then he also had, like I say, the equaliser in the final game at the Boleyn. We then now move to the London Stadium. He actually scored the first Premier League goal at the London Stadium. We'd actually played a competitive game before that when we played in the Europa League, a game against a team called Domzale, and it was actually Czech Kiarte that got the first competitive goal at the London Stadium. But the first Premier League goal, that accolade goes to Michail Antonio. Now, he also went on a little bit later on, and he wasn't playing at striker at this point. That came a little bit further down the track. He was still playing as a winger at this particular point. But he went on, and this is another little piece of history that he has. He scored the only goal in the first game that Tottenham Hotspur lost at their new stadium, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It was a goal that involved Arnautovic in the build-up. He got on the end of made the finish. 1-0 win. He had that celebration where it looked like he was riding a horse. And that was another little slice of history that he's got to look back on. Other little things besides that, probably the biggest moment of his West Ham United career, I would suggest, was that night in Prague 2 years ago, just over, where we lifted the Conference League trophy. He was in the starting lineup in that particular match in Prague, where obviously we pulled off the trophy and he carried off with a winner's medal. Now, the sad part about it is, and look, nothing lasts forever. And I guess that probably the way that the finish of his West Ham United career probably is less than ideal. He obviously had a car accident, which I think a lot of people say that he was very lucky to get out of that essentially in one piece. He had to have a lot of surgery to put bones together, and he was off for quite some time to heal. And I think a lot of people thought that he would do well just to walk again, let alone play Premier League football. But he always had it that he wanted to come back and play football at the top level, ideally with West Ham United. But it was just going to be a miracle just to get back on the pitch, whoever it was for. Now, the story goes is that in the summer his contract ran out and he was still training with the club. He was trying to get his fitness back, and we did, by all accounts, offer him a contract. However, because of the situation with his fitness, it was on vastly reduced terms compared to what he was on before as far as a basic is concerned. Apparently it was heavily incentivized towards appearances, goals, assists, and things like that. Rumor goes that it was effectively the contract that in the end was taken up by his friend Callum Wilson. Irony of ironies. But however, despite the fact that Michail Antonio decided that the contract that he was offered by the club wasn't for him, the club and he obviously still had, by the looks of it, a cordial enough relationship, because he was still training until a short time ago with the under-21s in a bid to gain fitness. And I guess that probably a lot of people, myself included, thought that it may well be that if we get in a little bit of a pickle as far as a striker situation is concerned, and if Michail Antonio looked like he was getting back to some sort of semblance of full fitness, that maybe there was a deal to be struck. Alas, it seems that that particular door has been shut, because the last we heard, he was training at Brentford. Whether Brentford offer him a contract or not, we're not entirely sure. There are stories doing the rounds that it may well be that Brentford are not going to offer him a contract, but he's apparently been training at Brentford. Now, I think the way that the West Ham United career of Michail Antonio finished, I think, is very regrettable. But I think if you was to ask me, do I think he's a West Ham United legend? I think probably, if I stop and think about all of those things that he's achieved, the fact that he played in multiple positions to good effect, the fact that he was a £5 million signing, absolute bargain when you look at the service we got, 323 matches, and he's our all-time record Premier League goal scorer. He was part of that squad in Prague. He scored in the last game at the Boleyn. He scored the first Premier League goal at London Stadium. He scored the only goal in the match, the first defeat that Tottenham Hotspur was inflicted on at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Many other achievements in his career, many goals that he had, many great nights, many achievements. and the love from the West Ham crowd was there for all to see. I think I would say that he has to be in the conversation for being a legend. I really do think he does. And to be honest with you, I think he probably is a legend, if I'm being completely honest. Now, I appreciate that probably some older fans might turn around and say, well, there was football before the Premier League. And that is correct. In terms of if you sort of move away from the Premier League, as I say, he is our all-time record Premier League goalscorer. But when you look at the goal-scoring records of people like Tony Cottee, people like Vic Watson, people like Jeff Hurst, Michail Antonio's record does pale into insignificance. However, you've got to remember that Michail Antonio didn't play all of his matches as a centre forward, and he wasn't a centre forward tried and trusted from back in the day. He was a winger, and also, as I say, played at fullback on a couple of occasions for the club. So I think that he has some iconic moments. I think he was part of some great teams, a team that finished sixth in the Premier League, a team that got to the Europa League semi-final, and also that won the Conference League. He was part of some great moments along the way, both personal accolades and team accolades. So I think, for me, I think I do have to sort of sit back and reflect and say, is he a West Ham United legend? I think if you put all the things into the melting pot and consider every single facet, I think you have to say he is, to be fair. But this is not something that everybody's going to agree with, and I accept that. There are going to be people that maybe say he doesn't quite qualify in other people's opinions for the accolade of legend, and that's absolutely fine. That's what this conversation is all about. Doesn't mean to say that I'm right and you're wrong, but it's a matter of opinion. Now, you might turn around and say he doesn't qualify for a legend. Maybe you turn around and say he qualifies as maybe the next rung down, an icon, an iconic player. Okay, fine. Or a cult hero, perhaps. Or maybe you don't rate Michail Antonio whatsoever. I think that would be a bit harsh, but there you go. But you've got a comment section below, so get stuck into it. What do you think? Is Michail Antonio a West Ham United legend? Get your comments in the section below. And please don't forget to drop a like on the stream. Give us a hype if you've got one available. Consider sharing this into your social media platforms. And why not check to see if you're subscribed? If you're not, please click subscribe. It takes a moment of your time. It's completely free of charge. It just helps to grow the channel into something bigger and better. You can see 2 videos on the screen right now. Please feel free to click one of them and the icon in the center of the screen. That will help you to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Come on, you Irons.